The night Juma was born, the sky burned red like a hunter's fire, and the wind whispered secrets through the towering baobab trees. In the heart of the village, his mother, Maya, lay on a mat of woven palm leaves, clutching her newborn son. The midwives gasped as they peered into the baby's face. His eyes, though wide open, held no light. Whispers spread like dry harmattan wind through the village. A child born without sight? Ah, this is a sign, an elder murmured, shaking his head. The spirits have cursed this house, a woman muttered, drawing her wrapper tightly around her shoulders. Even Juma's father, Musa, stood in silence, staring at his son as if the boy had been carved from stone. Maya, weak from childbirth, pulled her baby close and kissed his forehead. "My son is not cursed," she whispered fiercely. "He is a gift." But in the days that followed, the village was not as kind. As Juma grew, his blindness became more obvious. Other children ran barefoot through the fields, chasing fireflies and climbing trees. But Juma sat beneath the shade of the baobab, listening. He listened to the birds, the rustling leaves, the distant laughter of children who never called his name. One afternoon, when he was about 5 years old, he tried to join them. He followed their voices to the riverbank, his feet carefully tracing the ground. The moment the other boys saw him, their laughter died. "What is he doing here?" One boy sneered. "He can't even see. How will he play?" Another chuckled. Juma's heart pounded. "I can still run," he said, standing tall. The biggest boy, Mosi, scoffed. "Then prove it." Before Juma could react, Mosi shoved him. Hard. Juma lost his footing. His arms flailed, searching for balance, but the ground beneath him crumbled. He tumbled backward, down the muddy slope, straight into the river. The water swallowed him whole. Everything turned silent, cold, heavy, suffocating. Juma flailed in the darkness, his mind screaming. He could not tell which way was up, which way was down. Then, through the muffled rush of water, he heard something. A whisper. "Do not fight the river. Listen to it." Juma stilled. He let go. And suddenly he felt it, the soft current nudging him, guiding him toward the surface. He kicked his legs, reaching toward the light he could not see but could feel. A gasp of air. Hands pulling him up. When he opened his mouth, coughing and shivering, the village boys stood frozen, eyes wide. Even Mosi looked pale. "You should have drowned," one of them muttered. Juma stood, dripping and breathless. I listened. He turned and walked away, leaving them speechless. That evening, as Maya dried him by the fire, she cupped his face in her hands. "Juma, my son, you are different," she said. "But different does not mean weak. You see in ways others do not." Juma clutched his mother's wrapper. "I want to learn, Mama." Maya's heart ached. She knew that the village school would never accept a blind child. But she also knew her son was meant for something greater. So she made him a promise. "You will learn, my son," she whispered. "Even if the whole world stands against you, I will teach you." And so, as the village slept beneath the glow of the moon, a mother sat beside her son, telling him stories of warriors, kings, and scholars, planting the seeds of knowledge in a boy who would one day change the world. The night wind carried the whispers of the forest as Juma sat outside his mother's hut, listening to the distant hoots of an owl. He loved the way the world spoke to him, not in sights, but in sounds, smells, and vibrations. Tonight, however, he felt the weight of his failure pressing down on him. That morning, he had once again tried to sit in the village school, only to be dragged out by the older boys, their laughter echoing in his ears like the howls of hyenas. Chief Omari himself had scolded him before the entire village. "A blind child cannot learn," the chief had said, his deep voice like rolling thunder. Wisdom is meant for those who can see the world. The words had cut Juma deeper than any spear. He had clenched his fists but said nothing. What could he say? He was just a boy, one who could not see. That evening, as Juma sat alone, he heard soft footsteps approaching. He knew those footsteps well. They belonged to Asha. Asha was the daughter of the wealthiest merchant in the village, and unlike the other children, she did not treat Juma with pity or cruelty. She had a voice like cool water, and a heart that held secrets like the deepest wells. "Juma," she whispered, kneeling beside him. "Are you all right?" Juma let out a slow breath. "They say I cannot learn because I cannot see." Asha hesitated, then pressed something into his hands. It was a wooden carving, small and smooth, shaped like a bird. "What is this?" Juma asked, running his fingers over it. "It's an eagle," Asha said. "My father sells carvings, and I asked him for this one because I thought of you. Eagles don't need the ground beneath them to survive, Juma. They soar above it." Juma swallowed hard. No one had ever spoken to him like this before, not even his own father. "But how can I fly, Asha?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "Maybe you need to find another way," she said. The days passed, and Juma continued to listen outside the school, memorizing every word the teacher spoke. He would repeat them to himself over and over until they were carved into his mind like the markings on a sacred drum. One evening, he made a bold decision. He picked up a stick and, using the soft dirt beneath his hut, tried to draw the letters he had only heard about. His hands trembled as he traced the shapes, but it was no use. He had never seen them before. "You are writing," a voice said behind him. Juma turned quickly. It was Omar, the village healer. The old man rarely spoke to others, but his knowledge of herbs and wisdom was unmatched. "I'm trying to learn," Juma admitted. "But how can I when I don't even know what these letters look like?" Omar was silent for a moment, then he said something that made Juma's heart skip. "There is another way." That night, under the cover of darkness, Omar led Juma deep into the forest. The boy's heart pounded as he stepped carefully over roots and fallen leaves. The air smelled of damp earth and wildflowers. Finally, they arrived at a small clearing where an old man sat by a fire. His hair was white as river foam, his hands gnarled like the roots of an ancient tree. "Juma, this is Max. He is a griot, a storyteller, a keeper of history. He does not need eyes to see the past or the future." Juma's breath caught. A blind man who was wise? Who held knowledge? "Sit, child," Max said. "Let me show you how to see with your mind." And as Juma sat before the fire, listening to the old man's voice weave stories and lessons together like the threads of a great tapestry, he knew that his life was about to change forever. For the first time, he felt something more powerful than sight. He felt hope. The village of Kijiji had not changed much in the years since Juma had left. The same towering baobab tree stood at the center, its branches stretching toward the sky like the hands of an elder giving blessings. The same red earth paths wound between mud brick houses, where women pounded yam and children chased each other with joyful shrieks. But there was something in the air now, something tense, expectant. The villagers had heard rumors. Whispers floated through the market like the scent of roasting plantains. "He is coming back. They say he has learned the wisdom of kings." But what can a blind man teach us? Among those waiting was Chief Omari, now older, his beard streaked with white. His once unshakable authority felt fragile, like a pot balanced on the edge of a shelf. He sat on his wooden throne beneath the baobab, his wrinkled hands tightening around his staff. Deep inside, a part of him feared the return of the boy he had once called a fool. Then, from the dusty horizon, a figure appeared. Juma walked slowly, his tall frame wrapped in flowing robes the color of deep indigo. His walking stick tapped against the ground with practiced confidence. A hush fell over the crowd. Gone was the timid boy they had mocked. In his place stood a man who carried himself like a king, though he wore no crown. Asha watched from the crowd, her heart pounding. She had never forgotten Juma, never stopped believing in his brilliance. But had he changed? Would he remember her? Juma stopped in the center of the village, lifting his head as if he could see them all. He took a deep breath, then spoke in a voice that rang like the call of a talking drum. Years ago, you said a blind child was useless. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Some looked away in shame. Others crossed their arms, unwilling to admit they had been wrong. You laughed when I asked for knowledge. You shut your doors when I sought learning. But today I return with the wisdom of many lands. Tell me, who is truly blind, the one who cannot see with his eyes, or the one who refuses to see with his mind? Chief Omari's face darkened. He could feel the tide turning against him, and for the first time in his life, he felt small. He rose to his feet, his voice sharp. You dare insult your elders, Juma? We are the guardians of tradition. What can you, a blind man, teach us? A long silence followed. The villagers turned to Juma, waiting. Then, with a slow smile, he answered, "Let me tell you a story." Juma's voice wove through the air like a river winding through the forest. He told them of the great cities he had visited, where blind men became teachers, where wisdom was valued over strength. He told them of kings who sought counsel from those who could not see, for sight alone did not make one wise. He told them of love, of perseverance, of the power of a single mind to change the world. The village listened, spellbound. Even Chief Omari could not look away. Then Juma turned to the children gathered at the front. I was once told I could not learn, just as some of you may be told you are too small, too weak, too different. But I tell you this, wisdom belongs to those who seek it, not to those who have been chosen by birth or fate. You are more than what they say you are. You are the future. Asha stepped forward, her eyes shining. And what of the past, Juma? Can the past be forgiven? Juma turned his face toward her, and for the first time since his return, his voice softened. The past cannot be changed, but it can be learned from. That is what makes us wise. At that moment, something inside Chief Omari cracked. Slowly he stepped forward and placed his staff at Juma's feet. You have shown us what we failed to see, Juma. You are not a boy anymore. You are a teacher, a leader. And today, we are your students. A great cry of celebration rose from the villagers. Drums began to beat, feet stomped against the earth, and a new story was born. A story that would be told for generations. True blindness is not of the eyes, but of the mind that refuses to see beyond what it has always known. Knowledge belongs to those who seek it, and the heart that never gives up will one day light the path for others. Thank you so much for watching this intense and gripping story on African Tales Stories. Your support means everything to us if you enjoyed it. Please give it a thumbs up and share your thoughts in the comments section. And hey, we'd love to know where you're watching from. Drop your location in the comment section below. Don't forget to share these stories so that more people can watch and learn. Until next time, stay tuned for more captivating African tale stories. Bye.